You're listening to this because, well, you love a good puzzle, right? You appreciate looking at things from multiple perspectives, you're fascinated by the hidden mechanics of the world, and above all, you love a thrilling, genuinely unsettling narrative.
Oh, absolutely.
So today we are taking a deep dive into an incredibly detailed set of RPG session notes. It's a document titled The Ashes of Mourningfall Session Notes for Episode 2, Secrets of the Forgotten Bell. But I want to be clear, our goal here isn't just to recap some fantasy story.
Right, not at all. Because what we're really doing is dissecting a masterclass in psychological horror and honestly systemic gaslighting. I mean, this narrative functions as this perfect laboratory for exploring how absolute control is exerted over a population. And it's not through violence, but through the active manipulation of memory.
Yeah, which is just terrifying. So let's set the stage for you. We are looking at a place called Mourningfall. It's this isolated, fog-drowned mining town up in the mountains. And they just celebrated their annual Festival of Remembrance for this event, known as the Burning, which was this catastrophic mine fire 30 years ago.
Right, exactly 30 years.
But there is a glaring, massive problem with this town.
Yeah.
They have a collective amnesia issue. Like, nobody remembers the fire the same way twice. And what's more disturbing is that nobody seems to notice the contradictions in their own stories.
Yeah, and the cast of characters navigating this nightmare really provides an excellent lens for us to view the horror. So we have Aelion, who's a wandering half-elf paladin of Tormso, essentially a holy warrior bound to a god of duty and loyalty. And he also happens to sing beautifully, which is a nice touch.
Gotta love a musical paladin.
Exactly. Then there's La Maestra, a really secretive half-elf sword bard. We've got Owlin, an elf rogue and scholar. And finally, there is Lamivius. He's a tiefling, so a spellcaster with demonic ancestry, who wields a spear and is just constantly writing in this mysterious book using some unknown language.
Right. And the inciting incident that throws this whole party into the deep end, it happens right during that festival we mentioned. So a local woman named Nora gets possessed by this horrific, intelligent black smoke. And the town's standard operating procedure for this is it's brutal. They just kill the possessed person.
Yeah, zero hesitation.
Right. And we learn from the notes that when they do that, the possessing entity drags the victim's soul screaming down into the ground. But Elian, being a holy warrior, he refuses to allow that. So he uses divine light to literally tear the smoke out of Nora, saving her life.
Which is incredibly dangerous.
Oh, totally. And amidst all the chaos of that exorcism, a sweet tavern barmaid named Tamsin suddenly vanishes. Just gone. And within an hour, the entire town completely forgets she ever existed. Which immediately makes me wonder, how exactly is a town-wide memory wipe administered so cleanly?
Well, that is exactly where the session notes pick up, inside the local tavern, the Last Lantern. And the townsfolk are sort of filtering in, right? They're pretending to drink, but they're secretly watching the party in absolute awe because they actually managed to save Nora.
Yeah, they broke the rules.
Exactly. But what's fascinating here is that the true horror isn't the social dynamic at all. It's the physical environment of the tavern itself.
Right, okay, let's unpack this, because Lacobius, the tiefling spellcaster, he notices something impossible happening in the hearth. The fire is burning, but it's purple and green. And the bizarre detail is that there is absolutely no wood in it. Like, the fuel burned down to embers a long time ago, but the fire is still just roaring.
Yeah, it defies physics.
So Elian runs a test to see if the fire itself is magical, right? He tosses a normal log into the hearth, and that log just burns with completely normal orange sparks.
Which tells us so much. I mean, it proves the magic isn't an ambient effect of the fire itself. The magical catalyst was the fuel that the vanished barmaid, Tamsin, was feeding it right before she disappeared.
Wow.
And this realization leads directly to a far more disturbing experiment in the notes, which we can call the soup test.
Oh man, the soup test. I want to really break this down because it completely changes how we understand this environment. So Mother V, the innkeeper, who, by the way, wears a magic ring and deeply hates paladins, which adds a lot of tension to the room.
Oh yeah, she's not a fan of Elian.
Not at all. So she's feeding a recovering Nora some soup from a tin bowl. But literally everything else in this tavern is made of wood. The tables, the cups, everything.
Yeah.
So Levis gets a hunch. He takes the soup and he pours it from the tin bowl into a wooden one. And the instant the cold soup hits the wood, it heats up.
Right. And that detail is crucial because it means the magic isn't in the air. It's not in the water. It's in the wood. But the truly chilling mechanism is what happens to Levavis's mind, the exact moment he witnesses this impossible transfer of heat.
Yes. Because the moment Lopius sees it, his own brain starts fighting him. His certainty about what he just witnessed begins to just slide away. He almost convinces himself that, oh, the soup must have been warm the whole time.
It's an immediate rewriting of his perception.
Yeah, it's this localized, incredibly aggressive form of cognitive dissonance. If I had to compare it to something real, it's like a malicious autocorrect for your brain, you know. It actively deletes reality and smooths over the gap to fit a predetermined, unthreatening narrative.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
But my question to you is this just an environmental hazard they wandered into, like a magical toxic gas leak? Or is this a targeted intelligent system?
Oh, the notes make it very clear that this is a highly systematic, intelligent design. I mean, earlier, the party noticed these faint magical halos around the heads of the townspeople. The enchantment relies on everyday, mundane objects like a wooden soup bowl or firewood to deliver the amnesia.
Which is brilliant in an evil way.
Right. It is a perfectly crafted control mechanism. You don't have to round up a subjugated population to force them to take a potion or line up for a daily spell. You simply enchant the bowls they eat from. The delivery system is completely invisible because it is utterly mundane.
But if the town's entire infrastructure is built to gaslight them every single time they eat a meal or light a fire, I mean, how does a human mind endure that without eventually fracturing?
Well, that brings us to someone whose mind did fracture, but in a way that actually ended up saving him.
Oh, you're talking about Roger.
Exactly. So while the party's investigating the tavern, La Maestra sits down to play a game of dragon chess with a sad, older regular named Roger. And during this game, Roger just drops a massive revelation. He claims to be the only person in Mourningfall whose memory doesn't reset.
I found his backstory profoundly sad. I mean, 3 years ago, Roger forgot his own wife's name, Sarah. He remembered her for 30 years, and then suddenly it just slipped. And the wrongness of that, the pure, concentrated terror of losing his own wife's name, it was so intense that he clung to the absence of the memory until the name finally came back to him.
Yeah, and that act of sheer willpower essentially broke the town's hold on him. He anchored himself to his grief. But the tragedy is that he now has to fake being an amnesiac, because the rest of the town becomes actively hostile around anyone who remembers things that they have been magically compelled to forget.
And we actually see the mechanics of that compulsion play out a bit later in the evening, right? The
Mhm.
mysterious bell tolls far off in the distance. And when that bell rings, it triggers a town-wide memory wipe, like a hard reset.
Yep, across the entire population.
And Roger physically feels it happening to him. He literally has to scream his wife's name out loud, Sarah! Just to fight off the cognitive reset. He is holding on to his reality by a thread. But, you know, while Roger fights to remember, Nora is dealing with a totally different psychological nightmare upstairs. Because she remembers exactly what happened during her possession.
She does. And Nora reveals that the possession wasn't just, a simple loss of physical control. It was a physical sensation of deep, starving hunger. But the entity wasn't hungry for food. It hungered for panic and despair.
Wow.
Yeah, it used her body to cause fear because it needed to feed on that specific emotional frequency. And furthermore, Nora was taken from the second floor of her home.
See, that detail really stood out to me. The entity climbed the stairs. It wasn't just some accidental collision between wild magic and a bystander. It chose her. It's actively hunting. And the horror gets infinitely worse when you look at the collateral damage of all
Oh,
this.
street fight.
Yeah. During the street fight where the town tried to kill Nora, 2 other possessed villagers were killed. And Mother V, the innkeeper, pulls Levius aside and reveals this awful truth. Those 2 dead villagers were Nora's children.
And the town's magic is already actively erasing Nora's memory of her own dead kids. But what's truly unsettling is that Mother V actually justifies this process.
I know, she really defends it.
She states that, quote, nobody survives long enough to receive bad news in this town. She willingly allows the magic to erase Nora's kids, just as she allowed it to erase the barmaid Tamsin, who she loved like a daughter, in a single hour. Mother V views the forced forgetting as a mercy.
I struggle to wrap my head around that justification. It feels like an incredibly dangerous, slippery slope. Because, I mean, does this imply that the amnesia magic actually started as a traumatic coping mechanism? Like, was this originally just a way for the town to survive unimaginable grief after the burning 30 years ago, before it mutated into a weapon?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, historically speaking, systems of oppression frequently disguise themselves as protection. I mean, Mother V genuinely believes this forced ignorance is a shield against pain. The town is being kept completely docile by a system that promises a pain-free existence.
But the cost of that artificial peace is their grip on reality.
Exactly. They are trading their truth, their families, and their history for numbness. Because when you give up the memory of your loved ones to avoid the pain of losing them, you essentially lose your fundamental humanity.
That is so dark. And it leaves a very practical physical problem, too. If people like Tamsin and Nora's children are being erased from collective memory, where did the bodies go? So following the mystery of that tolling bell, the party heads to the only logical place, the abandoned ruined church on the edge of town.
Right, the temple dedicated to Lathander, the god of the dawn.
Yeah. And Eliane had already noted a major clue earlier. No one in this town wears holy symbols. Like, the entire town has just abandoned religion. And in the churchyard, there are a dozen gravestones, but every single one bears a death date from exactly 30 years ago.
Yeah.
1695.
Which is highly suspicious.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that the town has been executing possessed citizens for months, there are no fresh graves anywhere.
So the party discovers this stairway leading down to a basement crypt, and it's blocked by a heavy iron grate. But the key detail here is the lock on that grate. The iron itself is old, but the lock is pristine.
Pristine, in a ruin.
Yeah, it is carefully oiled and maintained. There are even fresh scratches around the keyhole, which means someone in a town of amnesiacs is actively using and maintaining this crypt.
So La Maestra picks the lock and they head down into the dark. And down there they find skeletons. But these aren't your typical mindless, shambling undead. They are flesh-hungry and they are talking.
Oh, that gave me chills.
Right. One of them actually asks the party if they have brought food. And the twist hits so hard when Alien recognizes one of the skeletal faces. It's one of the villagers who was killed in the street fight just hours earlier.
Which raises a fascinating point about the mechanics of necromancy in the specific lore, because skeletons that politely ask for food are not raised by some quick, chaotic battlefield spell. They are cultivated. They have been domesticated through repetition.
They'd expect to be fed.
Exactly. They expect food because someone has been regularly bringing them the bodies of the erased townsfolk. It's a fully functioning, symbiotic ecosystem.
And that completely reframes the entire graveyard. I mean, here's where it gets really interesting. It's not a resting place anymore. It's literally a recycling bin for human souls.
Yeah.
And the fight that breaks out down here is incredibly vivid, revealing a lot about the characters. Alien implants his feet, calls down the power of his god, and shouts, "Fear the light of the loyal fury."
A great paladin moment.
Truly. The radiance physically forces the skeletons back. Then Lamythius, the spellcaster, he throws a javelin that sets a skeleton on fire, and then he magically snaps the weapon back to his hand through the air, which is a nice recovery from a misfire he had earlier.
Yeah, redeeming himself there.
And La Maestra, after missing a few rapier thrusts and clearly getting frustrated, she just unleashes a thunderwave spell with so much concussive force that it completely obliterates a skeleton, like it embeds its femurs straight into the stone pillars.
But you know, the intensity of that combat really highlights the party's desperation, but their victory leaves them standing in the middle of a deeply disturbing reality. Someone is tending this garden of horrors. They are feeding the town's dead to these cultivated undead, and this completely changes our understanding of the town's sealed mining operation.
Also,
Well, you don't seal a mine just to close down a failing business. You seal it to keep something locked inside, or to hide the true source of your power.
and the source of that power is waiting for them right at the back of the crypt. Once the undead are cleared out, they find this massive, ancient bronze bell, and it's covered edge to edge in tightly spiraled Draconic script. So Alien casts Detect Magic, and the reading nearly knocks him over. It's the exact same memory-wiping enchantment that hovers over the townsfolk, but orders of magnitude stronger.
Right. This isn't just a bell. This is the machine driving the amnesia.
So Alien and Labius translate the Draconic script, and the commands etched into the bronze are so explicit, just dictatorial. The bell reads, "Sleep and be spared the waking."
And it also commands, remember as we permit, forget as we demand. Which is chilling. Furthermore, the script includes a strict warning never to speak a specific name. And the party realizes this forbidden name is the exact same word Nora was struggling to remember while she was recovering from her possession upstairs.
Yeah, everything is connected. And the physical reality of the machine is just as grim as its magical commands. Because crushed underneath the rim of this massive bronze bell, dried in 30-year-old blood, is a body. It's the senior priest of Lathander, the Dawn God. He died 3 decades ago, and he's clutching something to his chest. The parish ledger. the official register of the town's dead.
And that ledger is the key to the town's entire pathology. I mean, it is a document at war with itself. You have old, faded ink recording deaths in a normal bureaucratic fashion. But written over top of those entries, in newer ink by the same hand, the deaths are crossed out and replaced with the phrase, recovered by grace.
They're just rewriting it.
Yes, the dates of death are being deliberately altered.
So what does this all mean? I mean, to me, it's literal historical revisionism happening in real time, right?
Yeah.
The physical act of writing over the names in the ledger is a microcosm of what the magic is doing to the town's brains. But the person altering the book missed one massive detail. At the bottom of the page, there was a final tally that was never crossed out. It reads, 214 souls given to the mountain.
Given to the mountain.
Yeah, and below that, in the newer ink, is the town's current daily mantra. By grace, none were lost to us. We remember, we endure.
It's all a fabrication.
Yeah.
And consider the environment surrounding this ledger. While the party is translating, La Maestra explores a dark corner of the crypt and finds this makeshift living area. There's a worn chair and a cot that has been slept in recently, but there is no fire pit, no way for a living human to actually stay warm in a freezing underground crypt.
Oh, wow.
And scratched into the wall, written over and over again in blood, is the name Nor-Ara.
Wait, so the entity that possessed Nora or someone connected to it has been squatting down here?
Precisely. And La Maestra smartly copies down the handwriting to match it against the townsfolk later. But synthesizing all of this reveals a profound thematic link. Remember the gravestones outside that read, sleeps, and is spare?
Oh, right.
That perfectly matches the Draconic command on the bell. Sleep, and be spared the waking. The town's entire culture, their chants of we endure, their gravestones, their coping mechanisms, none of it is organic. It was artificially seeded by this bronze machine.
To cover up a massacre.
Exactly. The culture was manufactured to suppress the memory of those 214 sacrificed souls. They were given to the mountain, and the bell was installed to forcefully rewrite reality so no one would ever investigate the crime.
Which brings us to the absolute breaking point of the session notes, the climax of their discovery.
Wow.
The party is in the crypt, processing this massive conspiracy, and Aurelian, acting on his paladin oath, he just refuses to let the murdered priest of the dawn god rot in the dark under this demonic machine. So he begins a ritual to consecrate the body so they can move it.
A noble action, but with huge consequences.
Yeah, because the moment the divine magic touches the priest, the heavy crypt door at the top of the stairs slams shut. The locks catch. They are completely trapped underground.
Because that act of consecration triggers a catastrophic failure in the machine. The bell physically cracks, a fissure spiderwebs across the bronze, and the golden, memory-wiping magic trapped inside goes absolutely frantic.
And the reaction isn't just magical, it is geological. The floor trembles, but the notes describe it not as a violent earthquake, but as something massive shifting far below them. From deep within the mountain, the party hears a sound. A slow, patient, enormous breath being released.
Oh, the tension there.
Yeah. And the golden light of the cracked bell pulses in perfect synchronization with that breathing. The thing the bell was keeping asleep for 30 years is finally waking up.
And this raises a really important question because it completely upended our understanding of the bell's purpose. We assumed the bell was a tool used by the ruling class to control the town. But looking at this final image, it appears the bell wasn't primarily a memory wiper for the villagers at all. No, it was a magical suppression system for a colossal entity beneath the mountain. And that suppression system was fueled and powered by the forced ignorance of the population living above it. The town's amnesia was quite literally the battery keeping the monster asleep.
That is just staggering, and it brings this whole narrative right back to you, the listener.
Oh.
Because this story forces us to ask how much of our own reality, our own history, is shaped by what we are collectively encouraged to forget.
Absolutely.
We've explored how gaslighting can be institutionalized, literally down to the very bowls people eat from. We've seen how grief can be weaponized against individuals like Nora and Roger, and we've seen how history is aggressively rewritten by the victors in the margins of a parish ledger.
It's a perfect storm of manipulation.
It really is. So I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. If the town's false peace and the bell's suppressing magic were entirely powered by the denial of those 214 sacrificed souls, what happens to the psychology of an entire town when 30 years of aggressively repressed trauma violently wakes up all at once?
That is going to be devastating.
I can only imagine. Stay curious out there, keep seeking out multiple perspectives, and above all, never take your own ledgers at face value.